Welcome, everyone. Today we are talking about one of the most brilliant, playful, and fearless minds in history. A man who didn't just learn science, he lived it. A man who helped build the atomic bomb. A man who won the Nobel Prize. A man who played drums, cracked safes, questioned authority, and refused to think like everyone else. His name was Richard Feynman. But here is what makes his story powerful. He was not born as a genius who knew everything. He was a curious child, a boy who asked questions, a boy who loved to understand how things worked, a boy who refused to accept answers without proof. And that curiosity changed the world. Today, we will explore his full life story in 4 long chapters. Not just his success, but his struggles, his love, his pain, his personality, his mistakes, his bravery. And as you listen, you will not only learn about Richard Feynman, you will learn how to think differently. And as you listen to this story in simple and clear English, you will also improve your listening and understanding skills naturally. If you enjoy learning English through powerful real-life stories like this, make sure you subscribe and stay connected. Chapter 1. The Boy Who Asked Too Many Questions. Richard Feynman was born on May 11, 1918, in Queens, New York. His family was not rich. They were not scientists. They were not famous. But his father was something special. His father believed in one powerful idea. It's not important to know the name of something. It's important to understand how it works. This idea shaped Richard's life forever. While other children memorized facts, Richard's father took him on walks and asked questions. He would point to a bird and say, "You can know the name of that bird in many languages. But do you know why it behaves the way it does?" That lesson was powerful. Feynman learned early that memorizing is not intelligence. Understanding is intelligence. He was not interested in just repeating what teachers said. He wanted to know why. Why does light behave like that? Why do magnets attract? Why do numbers work the way they do? He was not satisfied with simple answers. As a teenager, Richard became famous in his neighborhood for fixing radios. But here's the interesting part. He didn't just randomly fix them. He would sit quietly. He would listen. He would think deeply. He would imagine the flow of electricity in his mind. He could see the problem without touching the device at first. People thought it was magic, but it wasn't magic. It was logical thinking. He didn't panic. He didn't guess. He analyzed. That calm thinking became his superpower. You might think he was perfect in school. No, he made mistakes. He was playful. He sometimes broke rules. He joked around. But when it came to physics and mathematics, his focus was intense. He loved solving problems. Not because he wanted grades, but because he enjoyed the puzzle. This is very important. He learned for joy, not for approval. That is why his learning became powerful. Richard went to MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. There, he studied physics seriously. But even at MIT, he was different. While other students memorized formulas, he tried to rederive everything from scratch. He would ask himself, if I didn't know this formula, could I figure it out myself? That mindset made him stronger than others. He was not copying knowledge. He was rebuilding it inside his own brain. That creates true mastery. During this time, something else happened. He fell deeply in love with a girl named Arlene Greenbaum. They met when they were young. They connected emotionally. They laughed together. They understood each other. But life was not easy. Arlene became seriously ill with tuberculosis, which was very dangerous at that time. Doctors warned Richard, "If you marry her, your life will become difficult." But he didn't care. He loved her. And love is stronger than fear. He married her even though he knew her illness was serious. This shows something important about Feynman. He was not just a scientist. He was a human being with deep emotions and loyalty. After MIT, Feynman went to Princeton for his PhD. He was young, brilliant, curious, full of energy. But the world was changing. World War II had begun, and the United States was secretly working on a project that would change history forever. The Manhattan Project, a secret mission to build the first atomic bomb. And Richard Feynman, still a young scientist, was invited to join. He didn't fully understand the political consequences at that time. He was excited about solving big scientific problems. He wanted to push physics to its limits, and that decision would place him at the center of one of the most powerful and controversial events in human history. Richard Feynman was still very young when he joined the Manhattan Project. He was only in his mid-20s. Imagine that. In your mid-20s, most people are still trying to understand life. But Feynman was about to help build the most powerful weapon the world had ever seen. The Manhattan Project was a secret operation during World War II. The goal was clear but terrifying. Build the atomic bomb before Nazi Germany does. If Germany built it first, the world could change forever. That fear created urgency, and urgency created pressure. Huge pressure. Feynman moved to Los Alamos, New Mexico. It was a secret laboratory in the desert. Scientists from all over the country were brought there. The greatest minds of the time were working together. Robert Oppenheimer was leading the project. Security was extremely strict. You could not tell anyone what you were doing. Letters were censored. Phones were monitored. People were watched. It was like living in a spy movie. But inside this secret world, Feynman was still himself. Curious, playful, fearless. While working on the bomb, Feynman became famous not only for physics, but for cracking safes. Every scientist had a safe in their office. Inside those safes were secret documents, important calculations, critical information. Feynman became curious. He wondered, how secure are these safes really? So he studied how they worked, not to steal secrets, not to cause harm, but because he loved understanding systems. And guess what? He discovered many of them were poorly secured. He would open safes just to prove that security wasn't as strong as people believed. He even left funny notes inside some safes like, "I borrowed document number X." People were shocked. Security officers were embarrassed. But Feynman wasn't doing it for chaos. He was exposing weakness in the system. He believed in truth over authority, even in a high-pressure military environment. At Los Alamos, Feynman worked on complex calculations. Very complex, but let's explain it simply. To build an atomic bomb, scientists had to understand how tiny particles, atoms, behave when split. When you split certain atoms, they release enormous energy. But controlling that reaction required precise mathematics. Feynman became responsible for coordinating calculations. He created systems to make teamwork more efficient. He simplified complex problems. He helped others think clearly. He wasn't just smart, he was practical. He believed if you can't explain something clearly, you don't understand it deeply. That idea became one of his life philosophies. But while he was solving scientific puzzles, his heart was breaking. His wife Arlene was getting weaker. She was in a hospital far away. Her tuberculosis was getting worse. Feynman visited her whenever he could, even though people warned him about the risks, even though the disease was dangerous. He loved her deeply, and love does not calculate risk like science does. While the world was focused on building a weapon, he was watching the person he loved slowly fade away. Imagine that emotional weight, working on the most destructive weapon in history, while the love of your life is dying. That kind of pressure would break many people. But Feynman continued, not because he was cold, but because he separated emotions and work when necessary. He carried pain quietly. In July 1945, the bomb was ready. They tested it in the desert. This test was called Trinity. When it exploded, it created a massive flash of light, a powerful shockwave. A new era began. Feynman later described the moment. He did not feel pure joy. He felt something complicated: excitement, shock, confusion. Soon after, bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Thousands of people died. The war ended. But the world changed forever. Feynman later admitted something important. At that time, he did not deeply think about the moral consequences. He was focused on the science, on solving the problem. But later in life, he reflected on it more seriously. He realized how powerful science can be, and how dangerous it can be too. After the war ended, something unexpected happened. Feynman felt empty. He lost Arlene in 1945. She passed away before the war ended. He lost the person he loved most. The war was over. The big mission was complete. But he felt no excitement, no joy, no direction. He once said that after the bomb, physics felt unimportant for a while. He questioned meaning. He questioned purpose. He questioned everything. That shows something powerful. Even geniuses go through dark seasons. Even brilliant minds feel lost sometimes. Success does not protect you from emotional pain. Feynman did not stay in that dark place forever. One day he saw something simple, a plate spinning in a cafeteria. He became curious. He started calculating how the plate was wobbling in the air, just for fun. No pressure, no war, no big mission, just curiosity. And something returned: joy. He remembered why he loved physics, not for fame, not for power, not for war, but for curiosity. That moment restarted his career. Sometimes the biggest comeback begins with a small spark. Chapter 3: The Rebel Professor and the Nobel Prize. After the war, Richard Feynman began teaching at Cornell University. On paper, this looked like success. He was a respected scientist. He had worked on the most important project of the war. He was brilliant. But inside, he felt different. He felt confused. He felt disconnected. He felt like his passion for physics had disappeared. And that is very important. Even geniuses lose motivation. Even successful people feel lost. One day in the cafeteria, he saw something simple. A student threw a plate into the air. The plate was spinning. It was wobbling. It was dancing in the air. Most people ignored it. But Feynman stared at it. He asked himself, how exactly is it wobbling? He started calculating for fun. No pressure, no competition, no war, no expectation. Just pure curiosity. That small moment brought his joy back. He realized something powerful. When you remove pressure and return to curiosity, creativity returns. This simple plate led him back to deep research. And that research would eventually lead to something groundbreaking. Now we enter something complex. Feynman began working on how light and matter interact. In physics, this is called quantum electrodynamics, QED. That sounds complicated. Imagine light as tiny packets of energy called photons. These photons interact with tiny particles like electrons. The question was, how exactly do these interactions happen? The math behind it was extremely difficult. Other scientists struggled. The equations were messy, confusing, almost impossible to manage. But Feynman had a different way of thinking. Instead of complicated long equations, he drew pictures. Yes, pictures. He created simple diagrams to represent particle interactions. Today, we call them Feynman diagrams. These drawings simplified extremely complex physics. They made it easier for scientists to understand what was happening. He turned abstract mathematics into visual storytelling. That was his genius. He did not just solve problems. He changed how people think about problems. In 1965, Richard Feynman won the Nobel Prize in Physics. He shared it with two other scientists. The prize was given for their work on quantum electrodynamics. This was one of the highest honors in science. But here is what makes this moment powerful. He did not chase the Nobel Prize. He chased understanding. He loved solving puzzles. The prize came later. That is a big lesson. When you focus on mastery, recognition follows. When you chase recognition first, mastery often disappears. After Cornell, Feynman moved to Caltech, California Institute of Technology. This is where he became legendary, but not in a normal way. Most professors are serious, formal, distant. Feynman was different. He joked in class. He challenged students. He made complex ideas feel simple. He believed, if you cannot explain something in simple language, you do not truly understand it. That philosophy became famous. His lectures were not boring, they were exciting. He could explain the most complex physics in everyday words. He did not try to sound intelligent. He tried to make others understand. That is true intelligence. When he won the Nobel Prize, many doors opened. He received invitations to elite events, exclusive conferences, high-status dinners. But Feynman did not like fake importance. He once refused to attend certain events because he felt they were based on ego. He disliked titles. He disliked hierarchy. He disliked people pretending to be superior. He once said something powerful. I would rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned. That sentence shows his character. He respected curiosity more than authority. He believed in questioning everything, even himself. There was another side of Feynman that surprises many people. He loved playing bongo drums. Yes, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist who played drums passionately. He learned to play during his time in Brazil. He even performed publicly. He did not care what others thought. Some scientists criticized him. They thought it looked unprofessional. But Feynman did not live to impress people. He lived fully. He painted. He played music. He explored. He experimented. He refused to limit himself to one identity. He showed the world that intelligence and fun can exist together. After Arlene passed away, Feynman remarried. His second marriage, to Mary Louise Bell, did not last long. It ended in divorce. Later, he married Gwyneth Howarth. With Gwyneth, he found stability. They had a son, Carl, and later adopted a daughter, Michelle. He was not just a scientist. He was a father. He played with his children. He taught them curiosity. He encouraged questions. He carried forward the same mindset his father gave him. Curiosity over memorization. Understanding over ego. In 1986, something happened that once again placed Feynman at the center of history. The Space Shuttle Challenger exploded shortly after launch. The entire nation was shocked. 7 astronauts died. A commission was formed to investigate the cause. Richard Feynman was chosen as a member. Many officials tried to hide the real problem, but Feynman did not tolerate dishonesty. During a live television hearing, he performed a simple experiment. He took a small piece of rubber O-ring. He put it in ice water. He showed how it lost flexibility in cold temperature. He explained simply, the O-ring failed because of cold weather. This failure caused the explosion. In front of millions of viewers, he exposed the truth. Simple, clear, powerful. That moment showed his character again. Truth over reputation, clarity over politics. He did not care about power structures. He cared about facts. Later in life, Feynman was diagnosed with cancer. Even while facing death, he remained curious. He asked doctors questions. He studied his own medical condition. He approached illness like a scientist. When he knew the end was near, he said something unforgettable. "I would hate to die twice. It's so boring." Even in the face of death, he kept humor. He passed away on February 15, 1988, but his mind never truly left. His lectures, his books, his ideas, his diagrams, they continue teaching millions. Chapter 4. The Legacy of a Curious Mind. As Richard Feynman grew older, something interesting happened. He became more than a physicist. He became a symbol. Not a symbol of perfection, not a symbol of seriousness, but a symbol of curiosity. And that is powerful. Because curiosity is something anyone can develop. You don't need to be born a genius. You need to ask better questions. One of Feynman's greatest legacies was not his Nobel Prize. It was his teaching. At Caltech, he gave a series of lectures that later became famous as the Feynman Lectures on Physics. These lectures were not written like a normal textbook. They were alive. He explained physics in simple language. He would break down complex ideas into small, understandable parts. For example, instead of just giving formulas, he would ask, "What is really happening here?" He wanted students to see the logic, not just memorize the result. Many students said something powerful about him. When Feynman explained something, it felt obvious. That is the highest level of mastery. When something extremely complex feels simple. Today, decades later, those lectures are still used in universities around the world. His voice is still teaching. His mind is still guiding. Over time, people began to talk about something called the Feynman technique. It is a simple learning method inspired by him. The idea is very powerful. 1. Learn something. 2. Try to explain it in simple language, as if you are teaching a child. 3. Find where you struggle. 4. Go back and study again. If you cannot explain it simply, you do not understand it deeply. This technique is used today by students, entrepreneurs, engineers, and even language learners. Because it works. It forces clarity. It removes illusion. It destroys fake knowledge. Feynman hated pretending. He once said, "The first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool." That sentence alone can change your life. Feynman did not try to look smart. He did not try to impress. He did not speak in complicated language to confuse people. In fact, he criticized scientists who used big words to hide weak understanding. He valued honesty over image. He valued truth over popularity. Even when he was part of powerful institutions, he stayed independent. That independence made him different. It made him respected, and sometimes controversial. But he did not live to be comfortable. He lived to be real. Many people chase titles: doctor, professor, Nobel Prize winner. But Feynman never chased titles. He chased questions. He chased problems. He chased puzzles. He once said that he would be happy just solving problems, even if nobody recognized him. That mindset is rare. And that is why his success was so strong, because it was not built on ego. It was built on passion. When his health became worse, he knew time was limited. But even then, he was calm. He did not complain about unfairness. He did not ask, "Why me?" He approached death the same way he approached science, with curiosity. He wanted to understand. He wanted to learn. He faced it honestly. On February 15th, 1988, Richard Feynman passed away. He was 69 years old. But something important happened. His body stopped. His influence did not. Today, Richard Feynman is remembered as one of the greatest physicists of the 20th century, a revolutionary teacher, a fearless truth seeker, a playful thinker. His books like "Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman?" and "What Do You Care What Other People Think?" are still read worldwide. His diagrams are still used in physics research. His learning method is taught in productivity and education circles. His life is studied not just for science, but for mindset. Let's make this simple. Why was Feynman so special? Not because he was born with superpowers, not because he memorized faster, not because he acted serious. He was different because he asked why again and again. He refused to pretend. He loved understanding more than applause. He stayed curious like a child. He simplified instead of complicating. That combination is powerful, very powerful. Richard Feynman teaches us something beyond physics. He teaches us how to think. He teaches us, do not memorize blindly. Do not accept authority without question. Do not pretend to understand. Do not stop being curious. Curiosity is more powerful than talent. Honesty is more powerful than ego. Clarity is more powerful than complexity. And joy is more powerful than pressure. If you study Feynman's life carefully, you see a pattern. He did not try to become a legend. He tried to understand the world. And in doing that, he became a legend. That is the paradox of greatness. When you stop chasing greatness and start chasing understanding, greatness often follows. Richard Feynman did not just explain the universe. He showed us how to explore it. With courage, with curiosity, with joy. And that is why his story still matters.